mean, think about Jesus Christ himself. Everybody went against him because he was preaching love and doing what was right for the people. And Trump's doing what's right for this nation, and because he's doing that, everybody is against him.
Is that a political rally or a revival meeting? Because with Trump, it's getting harder to tell the difference. The cult of personality around Trump has really evolved into the point where they treat him like a messianic figure. They treat him like a god. They liken him, in some cases, to their God. We've got so many examples, and it was hard to fit them all into this video, but we pulled the best one. First, let's start with Sebastian Gorka. Now, he's a former Trump advisor, and he's comparing the crowds from Trump rallies to Obama rallies. But with Obama's, he said there was a cult-like vibe, whereas with Trump's, they're only expressing joy.
Look at the faces in the crowd at a Trump rally. Look at the faces of the people outside watching on TV screens. It's joy. It's not cult-like worship like you saw at Obama rallies. It's joy. It's the best word for it is wholesomeness. It is a wholesomeness that comes from love of country.
Now, if you've seen any Trump event or coverage of Trump events, you know that's not true. You can see it in the crowd reactions. I don't remember anyone introducing Obama and saying the crowd was there to worship him.
What more can be said than thank God we're here in Sunset Park to worship and bring back the greatest president we've ever known in our generation.
And this type of language has become increasingly more common. It's not just that he's putting America first, it's now that he is so important and he is so valuable and cares for them so much, he is just like Jesus Christ. At this same rally, Marjorie Taylor Greene made that exact comparison.
The Democrats and the fake news media want to constantly talk about, oh, President Trump is a convicted felon. Well, you want to know something? The man that I worship is also a convicted felon. And he was murdered on a Roman cross.
What do you make of this? What do you think about the Republican Party comparing him to Jesus? What do you think the consequences will be? What do you think that does to people who support him, but who also believe it? Let us know in the comments. Think that through. Of course, it's ridiculous. And while I haven't been to church in about 20 years, I still remember the core fundamentals, especially the teachings of who Jesus was and what he stood for. Think about the current Republican Party, what they stand for, what they talk about, and hell, what Trump even said at that event. One of the core themes of his campaign this year is deporting immigrants. That doesn't sound very Christ-like. And of course, they can't recognize their own hypocrisy. Another thing I remember from my childhood was there shouldn't be any idols before God, but maybe that one doesn't count in 2024. The way they manipulate these narratives and the language, invoking religious themes and turning him into an idol or a deity is really dangerous. And they really can't handle the fact that he got convicted of falsifying business documents.
Convicted felon. Well, yeah, so is George Floyd. And everybody, and you all too, the media worship George Floyd. Democrats worship George Floyd. There were riots burning down the country over George Floyd, and Raskin is in there saying we worship him. Excuse me, let me correct you, and this is really important. I don't worship, I worship God. God. And Jesus is my savior. I don't worship President Trump. And I'm really sick and tired of the bull annex I have to deal with constantly from the Democrats.
Not that anybody ever accused them of being ideologically consistent. It is very funny to watch them try to reconcile these two things, because again, they still reiterate that he is just like Jesus.
Trump is joining some of the most incredible people in history being arrested today. Jesus was arrested and murdered by the Roman government.
How do you not take a second and think maybe the case involving hush money payments for an affair that he had with an adult entertainer isn't the best example of our Christ-like savior? Sure, Jesus of Nazareth hung out with people who society looked down upon, but I don't remember him fudging the numbers in his ledger to pay them any shekels. Maybe I missed a book. Maybe I didn't read the whole thing. I did kind of skim and I mostly wasn't paying attention. But Marjorie Taylor Greene continuing to roll this out is really weird when you look at some of the other things that she's done toward Trump.
Up in there in the mucky swamp. Diane always has them in the mucky swamp.
And of course, you know, just like I know, from Trump's own behavior, this isn't rooted in reality. This is a guy who embodies most of the deadly sins. This is a guy who would probably take pride in breaking all of the commandments. In fact, in many of them, he has. And through his rhetoric and his actions, you can see that he isn't religious himself.
I do very well with the evangelicals. I love the evangelicals. And I have more people saying they pray for me. I can't even believe it. And they are so committed, and they're so believing. They say, "Sir, you're going to be okay. I pray for you every night." I mean, everybody, almost, I can't say everybody, but almost everybody that sees me, they say it. It's such a beautiful thing.
You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. And you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favorite Bible verses are, and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it, because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You used the word Christian. Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. Shockingly, because people are so shocked when they find this out, I'm Protestant, I'm Presbyterian. And I go to church, and I love God, and I love my church.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so.
On the issue of immigration, think about that. Think about how hypocritical it is for Trump to be heralded as a religious figure, as a deity, as a god, while simultaneously arguing for more draconian immigration restrictions. I mean, Jesus himself was a refugee. And what he taught, among other things, was welcoming everyone, taking care of people in need, taking care of the sick. Do you think for a second he would look upon the Republican Party and think, yeah, that's great. That's just like me? From what we understand about him through biblical text, through historical writings, no. And that nobody in the Republican Party can make that connection and recognize just how ridiculous it is. It ultimately proves what a cult this has become.